Hi, beautiful people. My name is Pina. I'm a nutritional therapist, Reiki practitioner, and I practice my own method of healing called the Quantum Journey. Welcome to my 101 Nutrition series. This video's aim is to give you information on nutritional topic without going too much into details about complicated body mechanisms or specific scientific terms. I'll give you some practical day-to-day applicable information so that you can make an informed choice on nutrition and lifestyle. So in this video, we're gonna be talking about carbohydrate metabolism. What is a carbohydrate? How does it work within the body? How does the body utilizes it? And then we'll touch on insulin resistance, insulin spikes, and I will debunk a myth that is quite common among my clients about carbohydrates and energy production. And finally, we'll talk about why I personally believe and support a low carbohydrate diet. So let's get started. What is a carbohydrate? A carbohydrate is a macronutrient. There's 3 types of macronutrients that the body utilizes: carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Carbohydrate is a building block for glucose. Glucose is another name for sugar. There's 2 categories of carbohydrates: simple carbs and complex carbs. Without going too much into details with names and categories of what they are, I'll just give you an example of one simple carbohydrate. That is fructose. Fructose is the naturally occurring sugar in fruits. It's a simple carbohydrate because it's simply made of just one molecule of sugar. Another simple carb is lactose, the sugar found in milk. Now, lactose is made of 2 molecules of sugar. Complex carbs are made of everything between 3 to about 14 molecules of sugars bound together. An example of a complex carb is starch or starches. Starches are found in foods that we generally will refer as high-carb foods. Foods such as pasta, rice, potatoes, bread, cereals, and legumes. Starches are also found in many vegetables and healthy grains. Then another category of complex carb is fiber. Now, fibers is different. Fibers does not get broken down by the body into small molecules of sugar. Fiber has a different functions. We have 2 types of fibers: soluble fibers and insoluble fibers. Fiber is generally found in your vegetables and fruits. Soluble fibers' function is that of being the food of our good bacteria, of our gut microbiome. The function of insoluble fiber is that of supporting bowel health in many different ways. Insoluble fiber becomes bulk for your stool, so it helps with motility, it helps with regularity, and also has a function of cleaning up the bowel as it goes. Both type of fibers, like we said, are undigestible, which means the body does not break them down into sugars. So this type of complex carbohydrate, we know eventually become sugars going to the blood and therefore raise your blood sugar levels. So what happens in the body when we eat carbohydrate food or sugary foods? So as we chew a food, there's enzymes in the mouth that start breaking it down into the smaller molecule. As we start to digest it, there'll be more enzymes into the stomach that enhance the action of breaking it down up until it gets to the small intestine. This is very simple term, digestion. There's all really complicated mechanism of some hormones being switched on and off and enzymes production, but all you need to know is that digesting food means breaking down the food into small molecules that once they get into the small intestine, they can be then absorbed through the intestine walls and reach your bloodstream. So a high carbohydrate food will give you that amount of sugars getting into the bloodstream. Once the sugar reaches the bloodstream, the pancreas secretes an hormone called insulin. The only function of insulin is that of picking up these sugar or glucose molecules from the blood and delivering them within the cell. within the tissues of the body. So muscle cells, brain, wherever the body needs this glucose to produce energy. Within the cell, again, there is a very complicated mechanism that turns this glucose into energy. We're not going to go into that, of course. All you need to know is that the insulin gets a spike when we have this amount of sugars in the blood, because the insulin function is that of carrying the sugars within the cell. Also, the liver, by another very complicated mechanism, will then store that excess sugars as fat. That is why on a high carb diet, we tend to put on weight. And this is normal. This is what happens naturally when we eat carbohydrates. The problem arises on a conventional diet. A conventional diet is extremely high in sugars and carbohydrates. So an example of a typical day on a conventional diet. For breakfast, we have croissant and cappuccino perhaps, or bread and marmalade with tea and coffee, or biscuits. So all of that is complex carbs. Plus, of course, the sugar in your coffees and teas. Marmalade will have fructose, and mid-morning snacks, you might have biscuits, a little piece of cake, fruits and cereal, or a chocolate bar. Again, carbohydrate, which breaks down into sugar in the body. Lunch, pasta, pizza, potatoes, rice or the grains, or legumes, again, carbohydrates-rich foods. Comes the afternoon, we're drinking a sodas, which sodas are actually really just carbonated water, sugar and colorants, nothing else. So that adds up as well. The snacks in the afternoon, biscuits, cake, chocolate bars, or savory snacks, which you think they're savory, so there's no sugar in it. Actually, so many of them there is. Crisps, some crisps have sugar added. On top of that, there are the added sugars in sauces, condiments. Baked beans have added sugars. Ready-made meal. So you can see by the end of the day, this amount of carbohydrates and sugars all breaks down into sugar. So day in, day out, on a long term, first of all, insulin requirement rises up. So the pancreas will produce more insulin to face the demand, all this extra sugar that circulates in the blood. High insulin also signals the liver to bring these sugars into fat storage. There's a mechanism, again, I'm not going to go into details, but the liver will store some of this excess fat as fat storage. So that's why on a high carb diet, we see weight gain. High sugar is also being proven to raise inflammation in the body. Basically, high sugar raises some inflammatory mediators and directly creates inflammation in the body. And last but not least, high insulin is a risk factor for quite a few metabolic disorders. One among them is diabetes type 2. What happens in diabetes type 2 is that there's a lot of sugar circulating in the blood, like we've seen, and therefore there's more insulin being produced by the pancreas to respond to this demand. The cells, full of sugars already, becomes insulin resistant. What it means is that they shut down to the action of insulin trying to get into the cell to deliver the glucose. So insulin resistance means the cell is already too full of sugars that shuts down to the insulin, and therefore this insulin comes back into circulation. Diabetes type 2 is not something that happens overnight. The body is very resilient, and it will take years actually to get to that stage. What we've seen before that, it's another condition called pre-diabetics, where the body is really struggling to manage, to regulate these excess sugars within. And then eventually the cells become insulin resistant. As a knock-on effect, you see the kidney not working properly because, of course, the sugar comes back as waste product. And you see all the problems that diabetes type 2 bring in extreme cases. On a conventional diet, before getting into the extreme of becoming diabetic, which, like I said, it will take years anyway to do that for the body, But what happens in an immediate, if you notice, every time you eat something that would spike your blood sugar level, especially white refined products, white sugar, white rice, white potatoes, white grains, white pasta, white bread. These products have been stripped by their fibers and also part of the micronutrients. Micronutrients are vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients. These white products are basically just what we call empty calories, literally just carbohydrate with a little fiber, of course, and a little nutrients, but not as much as they had in the original state before being refined. So these are the most dangerous. These are the ones that what they're gonna do in the body is immediately spike that insulin release and give you that immediate energy, and right after, like 20 minutes after, you feel the going down. You feel brain fogged, fatigued, and tired. Have you ever felt like that after a heavy, white, refined based meal? There's a term for it. I'm not going to go into details what happens within the body as a mechanism why we feel like that, but that's an indication that yes, you had too much of that product that spiked your blood sugar a little too high. Now, I like to debunk a myth that is quite common among many of my clients. And the myth is a belief they have. It goes like this: if I don't eat carbs or sugar, I will have no energy. It's a myth, because the body actually has not one but 3 mechanisms in place to produce energy from the food that we eat. Do you remember at the beginning we talked about macronutrients, carbohydrate, protein, and fats? Well, the body produces energy from all these 3 categories. First, of course, relies on that fat sugar production that we've been talking about today from carbohydrate metabolism. And if it doesn't have that, the body will also have that fat reserve. So we'll actually utilize that. In case that comes to miss, the body will switch to another mechanism which produces energy from protein. If that's not enough, the body has in place yet another mechanisms by which produces energy from fats, the fats that we eat. Not only the fat storage, but the fats that we eat in as well. The last mechanism is actually what the keto diet is based on. Let's not go into that today. What I want to underline in this video is that protein, the body breaks them down into something called amino acids, which are essential for many body functions. And fats, the body breaks them down into something called essential fatty acids. Just like it breaks down the carbohydrate into small molecules called glucose, it also breaks down the other 2 into smaller molecules. But amino acids from protein and essential fatty acids from fats, they're essential, means the body needs them to actualize functions or create other molecules such as hormones, enzymes, and so on. Whereas the glucose, that is the molecule that it breaks down from carbs, is not essential. The body will not utilize it to create something else or to help a function, to be a cofactor for something within it. No. The only function of glucose is that to go into the cell for energy production, which is not the only way that the body utilizes energy. So what that tells me? That tells me that the human body does not only survive without eating sugars, but it will also thrive. So for me as a nutritionist, sugars in the pure form like glucose or table sugar and in the white refined product that I mentioned before are absolutely not essentials within the diet. We can literally live without them. Actually, we will thrive without them. Also because, like we've seen today in this video, there is carbohydrates in many other foods, such as legumes, healthy grains, sweet potatoes, foods that it's more nutritional dense. Nutritional dense means it's got more nutrition than just that micronutrients, which is carbohydrate. They'll also have micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients, which the body can finally utilize it for something. Let's take fruits, for example. Fruits has fructose, which we've seen it's a sugar, but guess what? That type of fructose, even being a simple sugar, it's already nice and broken down and all ready to utilize, would not raise your blood sugar level as much as all the type of sugars would. And fruit, in addition, of course, it has all the amazing vitamins and phytonutrients. Another example is honey. Honey, it's sugar, but it's also incredibly rich in enzymes and micronutrients. So which one will you go for? Will you go for table sugar, which is a natural product coming from cane, but then it's stripped from all its nutrients and it's literally just that one will raise your blood sugar a lot. So to wrap up, I personally support a low carb diet. The carbohydrates that I suggest people to go for are the ones that come from real food. So legumes is a naturally high carb food, but again, it has all the nutrients and the fibers. Very important. Fiber content within fruit, vegetables, legumes, whole grains, healthy grains. It's what slows absorption of sugar within the blood. Of course, we're all different, and as a nutritionist, I look individually at each person, and especially if there's a condition, then the diet will probably drastically change. Personally, I support a grain-free diet. The diet out there is called paleo, and I must say I'm a paleo supporter for myself personally because I've tried a few things and that's what works best for me. But then again, I eat very intuitively. So for example, in the winter, when we feel more of that comfort food, yes, I tend to eat grains. Perhaps like 10% of my diet is grain. And then in the summer, I manage to be easily grain-free because that's, again, what's worked for me. There'll be more raw food in the summer. Then in the winter will be, of course, more cooked food because it's colder and we want to feel warmer. And most of all, I am a big fan of real food. First and foremost, eliminating all of the conventional, ready-made, packed with chemicals food as much as possible. Clean up the diet from the refined products and from the raised portions of fruits and vegetables. And that's all you need really to just start looking at something that's a little bit more a healthy approach. Right, I hope you enjoyed this video and feel free to raise any questions if you have, or to just write your comments. Let me know what eating regime works best for you, if you tried going completely grain-free, if you haven't, why not, and most importantly, if you believe that white products are the only way to sustain your energy, please write it down and let's discuss it. Okay, thank you so much for listening. Bye bye for now.